Why am I holding toaster? Well, we're going to talk about that more later today, because we're going to talk about how to pay your mortgage off faster. Now, I'm not talking about trying to pay it off in 10 years or some other heroic thing. There are videos on that. What I am focused on is helping you to make an extra $300 a month repayment. Now, to quantify how much that might save the average household, talk about someone who has a loan amount of around $600,000, which is somewhere near the average depending on where you are, and an interest rate of 6%, and they make an extra $300 repayment. They're going to save close to $150,000 over the life of the loan and around 6 years. So if you can make $300 a month extra in repayments, then you're going to be in a much, much better position. So let's start there. Now, for some people, they will simply have that money. They will simply be able to make the $300 a month payment, and they're just not doing it. And so the only advice I have for you, if you're in that wonderful position, is to simply automate that process. And if you're not doing that today, you should. You should get the $300 and get it when your pay lands, have an automatic transfer of $300 a few days later in case your pay lands on a weekend, and ensure that that money is always going actually from your account onto the loan. It's not enough to just simply sit it on the offset. You won't notice that you're actually repaying the loan. The thing that you want to see is the limit and the balance starting to diverge. That will actually help you understand that you're actually paying off the loan, not just parking more and more in your offset. Now, we've done a whole separate video on offsets. There's a whole bunch of things about them that are great and things to watch out for. And if you want to watch that, you can do that down here. But purely in terms of repaying the loan, automating that payment is going to be one really wonderful thing you can do if you have the money to do it. Now, related fact, if you can move your pay cycle to align to when your mortgage cycle is, it is going to make it far easier to actually automate not only the repayment but also any extra repayments that you're making, because you will never see the money. And for about 10% of people, they actively track their money, and I do this myself, and it is hard. It's something that most people don't do naturally, and it's a skill and a behavior that you have to develop over time. So for the other 90%, they simply operate on how much money is left in their bank account, and they budget accordingly. And so never seeing the money is literally the key to being better at budgeting, and simply ensuring that when your pay lands, the amounts that are required to not only pay the mortgage but pay the extra $300 comes out is often the simplest tool that you might have for doing this. Now, in terms of ways that you might be able to get the $300 every single month, there's a handful of hacks that I'm kind of going to give you today. And I just want to quantify them, because I think everyone will sort of say these two in blanket terms, but actually quantifying them can be quite useful. The first hack is simply to get $300 extra worth of income. Now, ask for a pay rise. If you haven't had a pay rise in the last 12 months, you should be asking. Most of the people who work for you ask me that every 12 months, and it's a good skill to develop. It can be hard to do, it can be confronting, but actually asking for a pay rise is a great leveler in terms of being able to have some extra income. And the other option, obviously, is to do a bit of extra work. And so the easiest example for anyone who has a property, who potentially has a car as well, most likely has a car, then simply driving one day a month for Uber would make you about $300 according to the stats on their website. So taking one day out when you would otherwise be at home watching TV, who knows what you're doing, but doing that to generate that $300 may be the easiest way to do it. Another way is actually around consolidating debt, and we've done a whole bunch on debt consolidation, but if you have multiple debts and you're trying to make them work, simply putting them into one debt or even rolling them into the mortgage is a really effective way to free up the cash flow so that you can make an extra $300 repayment. In fact, if you do consolidate your debt, it's actually quite important that you do make extra repayments, otherwise you will actually pay more interest over the long term, even if the interest rates are lower. And then the other approach really is about kind of what I would call budgeting hacks. And so, as I said before, not everyone is up for tracking their money. It's a really powerful skill if you can do it. But if you're not doing that, or you're not able to do that reliably, then some of the hacks might actually help. The number one thing, which is why I held up the toaster before, is to delay major purchases. anytime you need to buy something, ask, could I buy this next month? Could I buy this next quarter? And the reason I hold up that toaster is I don't really like that toaster, but I have managed to put off buying a new toaster for over 2 years now because it works. I don't enjoy it. It's old. It was a gift from a friend of mine. It wasn't even a gift. He didn't like it and he handed it to me. But I can at least reflect and rationalize that I actually do not need a new toaster. I just don't like that toaster. So anytime you can delay a major purchase, you free that capital up to put that against your, the mortgage. The other thing is around spending patterns, and the easiest one to quantify for people is the one where you have a regular spend and you're not doing that cost effectively. Now, the one that we typically use and everyone talks about is your daily coffee. And it's very easy to quantify. You can go and buy a second-hand espresso machine for about $80 or $100, and then it will change a $5 a day cost into $1 a day or less than $1 a day. Now, you may have other reasons for going to the cafe, I get it, but if you're able to do that, that's $100 of the $300 that you would have otherwise spent. Now, I drink tea, and a tea bag costs about 8 cents. It costs about $6 to get a pot of tea in a cafe, and it costs 8 cents to have one at home. So having a look at some of these spending behaviours is usually a great place to start if you don't want to keep a budget, but you do want to make some changes. The other one that's quite expensive is cleaning products. Cleaning products, if you're spending money on a range of different cleaning products, you may find that simply buying one large container of a liquid in bulk and using it for mopping floors and spray and wipe and all these types of things is actually a great hack to save another $10 or $20 every month on those products. Another great hack is learning to cook. If you can cook even reasonably well, you can have better food, faster food, cheaper food. You don't have to leave your home to do it. And the cost of making food yourself versus eating it out, it's about a 70% cost reduction. If 2 people go out for dinner, or family of 4 go out for even a halfway reasonable average meal, it's probably going to cost them $100. If you're doing that 3 times a month, or not doing it 3 times a month, that's the $300 a month right there. The other thing with food is aspects of food, and meat's the obvious one, are expensive. If you reduce the amount of meat and seafood that you're eating, you're going to save money. These are expensive ways to consume food. And so eating more at home and eating less stuff that's expensive, meats and seafoods and cheeses to a degree, are great ways to take hundreds of dollars a month off, which is all we're looking for here. Last couple, stop going to the pub. And I don't mean don't go to the pub. I mean stop going to the pub to have a catch-up drink with friends. It is about the same as food in terms of the comparative cost. If you have a $12 schooner, which unfortunately is what it costs these days apparently, then that same beer you could still have with your mates. Have it in a convenient location, work out who's got the best house, have it $3 a beer rather than $12 a beer. It's going to absolutely have an impact on your bottom line, especially if you go to the pub, have 3 beers and then order some food and you find yourself coming home $100 lighter. And last one is you should really need to buy anything new. There's some things that are better to buy new, and obviously clothes and things like that, although you can buy a lot of secondhand clothes. But major things, gym equipment, toasters if you're going to buy one, buying secondhand is just such a better way to do it. It's better for the environment, but it's also infinitely cheaper to buy stuff secondhand, and you will rarely have problems. It's just that other people decided that they don't like their toaster anymore and they're essentially giving it away. So everything here is about trying to work out how to get $300 a month out of your budget and into your home loan. And as I said, it'll save you close to $150,000 in interest over the life of the loan and take 6 years off your mortgage. That's just average figures. If you want any help with any of this, you can talk to a broker and they're going to be able to help you out straight away. And also, if you are actually in mortgage stress and even though you're doing all this and you're still unable to make your payment, you should absolutely contact either your broker or your lender and try to make arrangements. Don't leave it up on the shelf.